So, in other words, I would just want to ask, do you think that from the way we're handling the problem as a nation, do we understand the enormity of what it is we face?
I think the few people who really understand are people who are sympathizers with Boko Haram in leadership. The truth is, when we look at what leadership has done, its appointments, its moves, and a lot of stuff that the incumbent has put into place, it is clear. It's like a medical doctor going to go watch over a witch doctor, and is watching a witch doctor prescribing things that will not work or will just kill the patient. So we're watching this. Frankly speaking, Nigeria has been made a laughing stock of the nations of the world. And let me tell you where the danger to that is. Afghanistan is shutting down. And everybody knows there are going to be a lot of jobless mujahideen when Afghanistan shuts down. Already, the path and the arrows are pointing towards Nigeria. If Nigeria as a nation is foolish enough to offer itself up as the extension of Afghanistan, the years ahead are going to be predictable. And that will buy breathing space for many European nations and many other foreign nations. And believe you me, they understand what this thing is. And if there's a nation that is stupid enough to offer itself as a sacrifice, nobody in the world is going to refuse Nigeria's offer.
How do you mean offer in terms as a sacrifice?
Well, the ineptitude with which we are handling this issue, the degree of infiltration that we have allowed in high places. Let's look at one of the Chibok towns, for instance, where at Tahira, they were telling me about a few weeks ago how there was an attack. They went over to the nearest army installation to go and report. The next day, men in Nigerian army uniform turned up with armored tanks and everything. And when the town had assembled, they began to gun their people down. So we're talking about complicity in high places here. We're talking about a highly intelligent foe that's eating you not only from without, but is attacking you from within. If we don't bring up commensurate understanding and intelligence to handle this, there's no way it will not continue to escalate. Remember I said 14 years. For 14 years we've been talking about this, asking, having meetings across the country, working everywhere, including northern Nigeria, and trying to get people to wake up on time to handle these things with the gravity that it requires. But as I still speak right now, I listen to the politicking going on, I listen to the amount of attention that we're paying to football and so on and so forth. It's obvious to me that a nation doesn't understand what is still ahead.
What can we say is the cause of this?
There's good and evil in the world. When you look at what we call the resurgence of terrorism, whether it wears the cloak of Islam or wears the cloak of Catholicism, what it does is pure evil. It destroys, it kills, wanton bloodshed, all for control's sake. And you have people who have studied you, who have data on you, who know your weak points, and they know that they can break your will if they pursue this agenda for long enough.
And that's what they're doing, pursuing the agenda. Precisely.
Well, we do seem to be in... I do remember your meeting with the women of Chibok. You had to speak with them. It's day 80 since the girls have been missing. Some people admit that we have made mistakes over time in terms of how we handled this. But do you see us being able to recover these girls?
Give me free rein 2 weeks. We'll get our girls back. Things are not as bad as we think they are. It's just that there's a mishandling going on in high places. A refusal for us to accost directly what the challenge is.
Okay. You said we should give you what?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yes.
We've had more than that.
What I mean is this. We have what it takes to bring home our girls. The greatest challenge to bringing home our girls on this Chibok issue is really not the kinetic option, the military option, as it were. The biggest challenge we have is policy and mishandling and fifth columnists from within. Number one, all foreign help that has been offered to Nigeria, it doesn't take a genius to read the fact that they've all been neutralized from within Nigeria. And that tells us that we have serious problems in our security, the structure of our security systems. Whether we want to admit it or not is just a matter of time.
Neutralized? I mean, one would have thought that, the problem is just intractable, and so they have not been able to, or maybe it was more than they thought it was. That's why they have not been able to get the girls back, even with foreign help.
I'll tell you a comment that a friend made to me, somebody I was talking to who works in a very high position in some of the countries of the world that have offered us help. Off the record, they are asking, when they come in here and we use official structures to limit, block, divert, and they listen to what we write in the press, now people all over the world are wondering, why should people in different parts of the world give more value to the life of the Nigerian citizen than Nigeria itself is ready to give to its citizens?
Have you heard any stories about, this agenda, this cooked up, this controversial agenda about, outside help or outside forces also wanting the country to break up? We have heard the CDS say that they're outside forces which want this country to break up, and they're getting help from within Nigeria. There is that controversial theory, so to speak. Have you gotten wind of that, and do you think that there's any truth to it?
Well, like all things, like all what they call those conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theory, that's the word it's
like all conspiracy theories. When I heard that, first of all, I laughed it off. I wasn't really, the work that we do, we like to look at cold, hard facts. We like to evaluate. We like to, have a head on our shoulders when we look at issues, a clear head on our shoulders. We also know that disinformation, subterfuge, these are also tactics of the enemy. So ordinarily, I would not have wanted to pay any attention whatsoever to that. But there's something that happened a few years ago that worried me. I remember in 2012, we were in Washington, and there was a team that had gone out to ask for the foreign terrorist organization designation for the Boko Haram in 2012. At that time, we got into Washington, and at the hearing in the U.S. Congress, we came up against information that was strange. I thought it was the strangest thing in the world to listen to diplomats who were working for the State Department of the U.S. who said, look, we don't want to label Boko Haram as a foreign terrorist organization. And I was puzzled as to why on earth this would be until I saw a letter that was signed by 22 professors, United States professors who were touted as experts on Nigeria. What they had done was that they had written to Hillary Clinton, who at that time was the Secretary of State of the U.S. at that time, asking her not to designate Boko Haram as a foreign terrorist organization because it was going to block their access, it was going to limit their influence. And as I read in between the lines, of course, diplomacy, when you read in between the lines, what had happened without Nigeria knowing was that the Boko Haram had been packaged as an anti-corruption crusade in the U.S. up until that point. Wow. See, Nigeria will never understand what that trip and that visit alone helped. At the time when the team came back to Nigeria, there was a lot of negative reaction because of people who were totally ignorant of what was going on. In fact, let me tell you this. If that FTO had not come, Boko Haram could easily have been receiving aid from foreign countries to help to sanitize Nigeria.
How come we didn't get